Let me give you an example. Mom, 2 kids, poverty level for her and her kids is $27,000. Mom works part-time. She makes $11,000. According to our Census Bureau, she's poor. She's below the poverty line. But she also receives, she works, I recall I said, makes $11,000 a year. She receives $4,100 in refundable earned income tax credits, $3,400 in refundable child tax credits, which means she gets a check, $9,200 in food stamps, $9,500 in housing subsidies, $900 in utility bill subsidies, $16,000 in Medicaid, $31,000 a year in free school lunches, and $6,000 in TANF payments. If you add that up, that's $64,100 a year, according to math.
I'll believe your arithmetic, Senator.
Okay. But using the Census Bureau's definition of poor, they don't include all these payments. They just include her income and the TANF payment. Does that make sense to you?
Senator John Kennedy didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse anyone of lying. He just asked a few simple questions. And by the time he was done, the entire definition of poverty in America was on trial. What starts as a polite discussion about tax extensions quickly turns into a devastating breakdown of how Washington counts poverty, and what it conveniently leaves out.
Senator Kennedy.
Hello, Mr. Secretary. I'm over here. How are you?
Good.
Mr. Secretary, as you're also head of the IRS, we've had some tough ice storms. Would you and your colleagues consider an extension on allowing extension to allow people to file taxes a little bit later?
Senator, I've been in touch with the governor of the great state of Louisiana, and he and I and my staff are working on that. It is traditional to grant extensions for events like this.
Good. If Canada came to the United States, well, let me preface this by saying I understand that tariffs have a number of purposes, but the foremost reason for tariffs is to try to stop other countries from taking advantage of us through either their tariffs or trade barriers. If Canada, for example, came to the United States and said, we're going to zero tariffs in the United States, all of them are off on our end, would you, Mr. President, speaking to our president, go to zero tariffs and then just let Canadian companies and American companies compete on a level playing field?
Absolutely not. As we saw last week, when 2 weeks ago, when Prime Minister Carney went to China, he lowered tariffs on Chinese EVs from 100% to 6%. U.S. has a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. We couldn't let our northern border be used as a way for Chinese EVs to come into the U.S.
Right. Okay. I'm going to lead you a little bit because Senator Scott is a she-bear when it comes to time. The poverty rate, according to the Census Bureau, is 11%, isn't it, in America?
I'll take it. I'll take your word, Senator.
And that's the Census Bureau defines poverty, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the Census Bureau, in defining poverty and determining that our poverty rate is 11%, or 36 million Americans, which makes us look bad, only will consider direct cash payments from the federal government to poor people, such as, let's say, SSI payments or TANF payments?
Correct.
Okay. And isn't it true that the Census Bureau, in determining poverty, doesn't include non-cash payments? It doesn't include Medicaid or food stamps or housing subsidies or refundable tax credits. Isn't that true?
That is correct, Senator.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. Mom, 2 kids, poverty level for her and her kids is $27,000. Mom works part-time. She makes $11,000. According to our Census Bureau, she's poor. She's below the poverty line. But she also receives, she works, I recall I said, makes $11,000 a year. She receives $4,100 in refundable earned income tax credits, $3,400 in refundable child tax credits, which means she gets a check, $9,200 in food stamps, $9,500 in housing subsidies, $900 in utility bill subsidies, $16,000 in Medicaid, $31,000 a year in free school lunches, and $6,000 in TANF payments. If you add that up, that's $64,100 a year, according to math.
I'll believe your arithmetic, Senator.
Okay. But using the Census Bureau's definition of poor, they don't include all these payments. They just include her income and the TANF payment. Does that make sense to you?
No, sir, and you should bring that up with the Commerce Department.
I know, but you've got influence. I know how close you and the Commerce Secretary are. I'm hoping you could bring it up with somebody above.
The president says we're opposites, and I'm tall.
I'm not going to comment on that. Would you talk to the president about this? If you include all cash and non-cash payments, the poverty rate in America is 1%.
That's a good point to end on.
Thank you,
I
Senator.
told you he was a she-bear.
Kennedy walks the secretary step by step through the Census Bureau's poverty calculation. Officially, America's poverty rate is about 11%, roughly 36 million people. But that number depends on what you choose not to count. Non-cash benefits? Ignored. Food stamps? Not counted. Medicaid? Excluded. Housing subsidies? Left out. Refundable tax credits? Nope. Kennedy then gives a real-world example. A single mother with 2 kids earning $11,000 a year. On paper, she's poor. But when you add refundable tax credits, food assistance, housing support, utilities help, Medicaid, school lunches, and TANF, her total government-supported resources reach over $64,000 a year. Yet, under the official definition, she's still counted as living in poverty. The secretary doesn't argue the math. He agrees with it. Kennedy's point is simple and uncomfortable. If we counted all aid, America's poverty rate wouldn't be 11%. It would be closer to 1%. Senator Kennedy didn't say the system is broken. He didn't demand a new law. He just asked one question Washington hates answering. Are we measuring poverty or managing a narrative? If this conversation surprised you, it's worth sharing.